Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with our weekly Q&A thing. This is season 14, episode 20. Do you want to tell the people who are on YouTube what they're looking at?
Okay, so season 14 is our season of using the challenge characters before they come up. The ones that we think are going to be coming up this Thursday. That's going to be Bounty Hunter Lobo. And I don't know if I need to point out to people who have been watching this channel, we love Lobo. Lobo's fun. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason why Lobo, well, technically not Lobo, the plush Lobo is our avatar.
Mm-hmm. That counts.
So we're inclined to really like Lobo. And so, all right, so here's the weird thing. I know that we often get a lot of questions about how do we keep on playing? Doesn't it get boring? The fact that we're still doing this after years is wild to them. And I'll tell you something, it is a little bit. And then somehow, despite years of playing and having used Bounty Hunter Lobo before, I've just realized something because I'm making myself play with him. I've discovered something new. Mm-hmm. And so here's what I used to think. So Bounty Hunter Lobo, actually I should take a sort of bigger step back to look at the big picture. When we try to use a character as the star, we make them the special specialists. We usually give them Master's Death Cart and Tentu Totem and make them do their special 2 a lot. And Bounty Hunter Lobo is perfect for this because he's got a passive that will increase the special 2 damage every time you successfully complete it. It will also increase the duration of the damage over time, which gives you more damage over time, but also locks them into the fight so they can't leave until the damage over time is complete. Mm-hmm. And so you think, okay, so that's perfect. Quake Engine, it means that you increase the damage over time, you can lock them in longer, and it's one aspect of the advantage of Hawkgirl where you have control over what the enemy does when they tag in, when they tag out. It's not as good because you can't tag out as quickly, but it is definitely pretty great. So the shortcoming for Lobo always was. So I think he's got a 4-hit special 2. The first hit does the most damage. I feel like it's somewhere more than a third, maybe 40% of damage. The second hit that tosses the opponent in the air does like a little tiny bit of damage. And the last 2 hits do a bunch of damage again. And why that matters is because that first hit is not particularly ranged. Mm-hmm. So when you tag in, you've got Master's Death Cart doing a shove. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have 2 bars right away, you shove them far enough that you can't do anything. And so the complicated thing is that you get almost 2 bars when you tag in. Mm-hmm. To get the full second bar, you need to do 1 hit. So often that means like doing a basic attack. Mm-hmm. Lobo's great for that. His swipe basic attack is ranged. He's got a shotgun. Distance doesn't matter. But somehow a special 2 does. And if you do a special 2 right away, without waiting, it will miss. And you will give up a big chunk of the damage. Which sucks. Which is awful. And you lose out on a big part of what makes Lobo good, which is he's got a special 2 that when he does it more and more, does more damage. And then you give away a bunch of it. So here's the beauty of it. So this is this was all the lead up to why I just realized he's better than I thought. So something as small as whether you can change a special 2 to a swipe attack on tag in is something I figure out now. So you'll see in some of this footage that I'm swiping and there's 2 hits, but really what I'm doing is I'm swiping once and then I'm mashing special 2. And the first hit of a special 2 seems to land unblocked more often than not. And I wonder if it's because I need to just figure out my timing better and do it faster. But it's pretty good. Whether it actually chains or not, you don't lose the first hit of the special 2. Mm. Like, to me, that's worth something. And I feel like I'm landing it unblocked maybe like 3/4 of the time. And I feel like maybe it's because I just need to do it a little bit faster. Mm. And the other thing I realized is the damage over time, the amount of damage over time is peanuts. It's not, I mean, maybe it's not peanuts, but so you can see it in fights. In this footage that you're watching, you're going to see some fights against the Blackest Night Flash team where Blackest Night Flash will take damage over time, reverse it, increase health, and increase power generation. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's sort of the best measure of how much, like, I don't really care the same way about how much damage they tell you it's doing. It's in the middle of a fight whether I feel like it's making the fight harder or not. Yeah. And it's not. Like, I don't have to do anything special. I can still tag in Lobo the way I normally would. I can still drop a special 2 the way I normally would. And they gain a little bit of health. They gain a little bit of power. But it doesn't matter. Like, it's not like I'm using Arkham Knight Catwoman where she really is, like, damage over time. It is her thing. She does a huge amount of damage over time. And it makes the fights almost impossible to win if you land it on an opponent. And especially if you use Quake Engine and you don't get to damage them from the special 2 and you only give them the damage over time. They're like monsters. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually really enjoying playing Bounty Hunter Lobo way more than I have before this week.
Yeah. It's interesting the stuff that you can still learn.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there anything about the world that you want to talk about? I feel like you might want to talk about the Baseball World Series.
Yeah, so the baseball game, that was disappointing. So for those of you who haven't been watching so long and don't know, we're in the GTA. I'm a big Blue Jays fan. I've been watching the Jays. I've been attending their games actually since probably either the early 80s or the late 70s. Mm-hmm. And as a child...
It's a long time.
Yeah. I was taking public transit down from across the city to get to watch some of the games.
Yeah. You are not a fair weather fan.
Well, and not that that's a bad thing. Like,
yeah, you said that pretty recently.
Did I? I don't. Yeah. I said it to you.
Weeks ago. No, you said it on the podcast.
So, yeah. So we need those.
And I am not a fan. Yeah. I it's not that I'm like, I don't like the Jays. Right. I just don't really follow any sports.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And so there was enough energy around it, and enough of my friends were really into it that I was following like the scores. Like while games were going on, I would check a score update. You know, if I went to check and spend like 2 minutes on my phone, right? I'd check the score update because why not, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not really like I watched almost none of it live. I just saw people talking about it, and when people are really excited about stuff, and especially when they have something interesting to say, I can find most things compelling.
Right.
So I was hearing and seeing like some people talk about stuff that I found a little interesting or a little compelling,
right?
Just to get like that tiny fraction of a level of engagement into it, which is the same thing that you did on the podcast. You told me a little bit about what was going on.
So a lot of it has been rehashed to death, and I'm not going to go into that. I mean, it's pretty clear to me that there was something really good going on in the Jays clubhouse that's not common. And you can see that from a lot of comments of players. What I will want to talk about is sort of 2 interesting things. One that just I became aware of today. So Kiki Hernandez is a player on the Los Angeles team. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say he's a star. I mean, he's got some name recognition. He was not one of the top performers for Los Angeles. And there's a social media post attributed to him saying, yeah, so, 2 in a row, 3 in the last 6 years. This is now you're ready to call a dynasty. And it feels particularly obnoxious to do that because listen, it's a team game, and more than some team games, there's a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
So everybody's contributing, but he wasn't really a big part of it. It's like when people talk about who's the greatest basketball player and who's got the most NBA rings. And there's like some nobody, I think not nobody, but just minor players that because they were on the right team.
Yeah.
Ended up getting a ring. Yeah,
because these are all people who are undoubtedly exceptionally talented.
Sure.
Who are like a fraction of a percent of like the top performers for the sport.
Yeah.
But, when you're in a pond where everybody is at least that good, right? Among those people, you can have people who are relatively way, way, way better or way, way, way worse.
Right.
Even though if you put those people up against almost anybody else in the world playing that sport, they would knock the socks off them.
Right. I mean, it's as close as a game or a series as you can have, that there were 2 extra inning games, that the last game was decided by extra innings. The series was won 4-3. And so it feels, and I recognize part of it might be because I like Toronto, but I think I've watched baseball enough, and I've watched enough losing years of Toronto baseball to appreciate this for what it is. Because and I've said this to my friend who is a bandwagon guy. Again, nothing wrong with that. We need bandwagon fans. But that this was a really compelling story for the season, right?
I've heard that the season and the way that it ended in the whole World Series was all really engaging relatively to baseball normally.
From last to first, with a relatively bad start to the season. Basically, players either from last season or from minors, because most of the money that was spent on free agents did not make a big difference. Like the big free agent signing, played hardly any games, was a non-factor in the playoffs, Santander. And that so many things happened during the series that were unprecedented, and that the Jays, when they won their games, were pretty dominating, and the games they lost were pretty close. So I think it's not so much that the Jays failed, although they did fail. It's that this was a really interesting competitive game. And when somebody is obnoxious like that, like that kind of trash talking, I can tolerate it a little bit better when the outcome is in doubt. Because then when you actually perform, you're doing something. I feel like there's a little bit of cowardice involved.
Like doing it after you've already won?
After you've won, and when you've been a person who hasn't really contributed. Because I think Kiki Hernandez had not like great numbers, offensive numbers in the playoffs. And that if you were going to ask almost anybody who was the biggest contributor to the Dodgers
would have been Shohei Ohtani?
Well, it would have been a lot of people before you get to Kiki Hernandez. So, I found that particularly obnoxious. So, there's a couple of really sort of obnoxious kind of things on the Dodgers team. One is Kiki Hernandez, and two is that reliever Trinan, who's got Charlie Kirk on his cap. Which is, to me, the opposite.
I think that wasn't in the final game, though. That was in an earlier game.
It might have been.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of the Blue Jays relievers having Vesia's name on their cap. But, all right, so that's the one thing. The other thing is, so if there's going to be any one moment that's faulted, is that Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Yeah. So there was, I think it was bottom ninth, one out. He was at third. There was a man on first, and maybe there was. Anyways, so people were complaining that he stayed too close to the bag, that instead of waiting to be ready to tag up when the ball was hit on the ground, if he'd had a bigger lead at third, he would have scored the run and won the game. And that's not an awful argument, because when they took the replay, the difference between him getting forced out at home and touching was like maybe 6 inches. The interesting thing, though, I think you can make a good argument that because of, I think was it Addison Barger? There's somebody who's hitting after him that was hitting pretty hard, and there's a chance of getting caught in a double play. But the part that I think he did make a mistake was, so there's an argument that people always make. How do you get to the base faster? So feet first slide, 100% for sure. Slower. Because when you slide, you're generating friction, drag, and you slow down. And your feet are the part that's leading you, right? That's carrying you forward.
Yeah.
There used to be there is an argument still that when you're running to first, where the most commonly there's a force out play, right? That you just have to get to first.
Yeah.
That running through the bag is faster than sliding head first. And what's interesting to me is that I don't know that that's actually true. Because if you are running through, you're going to be just your feet. If you're sliding face first, if you can maintain some of your speed in that short period of time where you're leading forward,
then you gain like an extra, like whatever your height is. Yeah.
Plus your
height plus
arm
wingspan.
length.
Yeah. Height plus half your wingspan, I guess.
Yeah.
So plus half your wingspan minus your head height.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry, I'm just doing the math in real time.
No. Including like just, I guess. Yeah. So, I know that as somebody who's like 5.5 feet tall, I can reach 7 feet just stretching with my arm, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is something to be said for, I don't know how hard or easy it would be to test this, because, when you're running, part of it will be what they can do now, but part of it will also be training the skill of sliding not to reach the bag, but sliding past the bag.
Yeah.
So that you're not interested in just stopping.
Yeah, because I think a big part of it is legitimately just like muscle memory.
Yes.
Right? When you're talking about that level, I think like the best way to do something is the way that works for you.
Yeah.
And there might be an objectively better way to do it, but that's only helpful if you can execute it consistently and with a really high degree of skill, which is not always, not always, it's probably very rarely trivial.
Yeah. And I'm not a big fan of the narrative that where people like to say that, you know, when you lose, either it's, if you're a fan of the team that won, it's because the team that won is good, or if you're trying to denigrate the team that lost and say, well, they choked. I don't think there's any choking in this game at all. Like, it clearly, like, there were definitely people who performed way beyond what was expected of them.
Yeah.
And even if you give up a run, even if you aren't perfect, most people aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even the best players do not pitch a no-hitter, like certain pitchers don't pitch a no-hitter every game, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are times where some stuff is random and stuff happens. So I think Kiki Hernandez is a bit of a dip. Not a bit. He's a lot. He's a lot of a jerk. And that I think there were enough moments that I don't think IKF should be totally held liable for the loss, but there are often those moments, those inflection points where you can look at it and say, if you didn't need much to be different, but just that little bit could have
changed the outcome.
It would have been totally different outcome. And when those moments are so close, I think absolutely. Like, all right, so I don't know if you're watching the game. So
do you know what that reminds me of?
What?
It's that monologue in season 2 of The Bear.
Okay.
Where they were talking about the guy that like grabbed tried to grab a ball and it like knocked out of his glove in the stands, and then it like fell into play, and then it led to outs, right? And they were like, everybody blamed it on that kid, right? But when really it was like the whole sort of series of decisions and it was all the play. Where I think it's very easy to see moments where it's called a counterfactual, right? Which is that what could have happened had something been different. And there are cases in which counterfactuals are really clear, and there are cases in which counterfactuals are really unclear.
Sure, that you'll never know.
And so the problem is that there are those moments where you go, if this had been slightly different, that's a really easy counterfactual, right? Yeah. If there was some way, right, if the distance you were from the bag was 6 inches to not get tagged out, if you somehow made those 6 inches up, then it would have been different. That's a really easy one variable counterfactual. And you just need to backfill anything that could have gotten you that amount.
He could have, think about it. All those athletes, I don't know how tall IKF is. He would have been able to reach 7 feet, right? Like, he could have had a 7 foot advantage to whatever it would have slowed him down. Like, it wouldn't have slowed down any, because if he's sliding forward, he wouldn't have slowed down from the drag.
Whatever. I think you can't go from a full sprint immediately into a dive. There has to be something happening there with your muscles.
But you can jump.
Yeah, but do you not have to sort of like get ready to? I don't know.
They train for it. So when you see them, they're actually like, they don't lose that much speed on their feet, and then when they're leaning forward, I mean, runners do this all the time, right? Like in track and field, they lean forward.
Yeah.
To get that little bit of extra. They don't just keep on running through it as fast as they can. They lean forward so their chest hits the tape first.
Yeah.
The other thing, when you talk about counterfactuals, the biggest one, I just remember during the game, like, what a compelling game. What an amazing series. So, Bo Bichette was injured. He tore his posterior cruciate ligament. And I think it was, people talk about his range in the field, and sure, that's fine. But I think when you talk about posterior cruciate ligament, one of the difficulties is if you're trying to stomp on that leg that's missing, or where it's torn.
Oh, did he play through his injury?
Oh, yeah, he came back early. Like, this is not the kind of thing that you can heal fast. It's a ligament. Right? Like, there's no rehab that you can do for a ligament to make it stronger. It just takes time to heal. And you can do rehab to try to make the muscles around it stronger to support it, around the joint. And you can also do rehab to maybe stimulate the ligament so that it heals stronger.
But there's nothing special.
There's nothing special. So he came back with a partially torn PCL. And so one of the things he probably should have done was teach himself how to consistently stop running on the good leg only. Because that force, when you're sliding, when your bottom leg plants and your PCL is partially torn, the force of the rest of your body trying to slide forward over the leg is what stresses the posterior cruciate ligament. Okay, anyways. So there was a time in one of the early innings where he was on base, and I think he was on second, or he was on first, somebody hit a single, and almost any other circumstance, like if he wasn't injured, would have gotten to third.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he was on second, somebody hit a single, again, any other circumstance, he would have scored. That was the difference of a run. And I thought, at that point, ooh, I wonder if it's a mistake leaving him in for hitting when he's such a liability, because you can actually look at that and say, that would have been a run scored. And then later he hit a 3-run home run.
Yeah, okay.
So, again, you never know what happens, because if...
Yeah, the counterfactuals. If he hadn't hit a 3-home run, or if you were just watching the start of the game, you might have said take him out, and you could have made that choice at that moment.
Yeah.
But the counterfactual, which the problem with this stuff is that you don't get to A/B test. There's no world in which you see how it would have been, right? Had it been different, right? And so there's always decisions, and there's a lot of stuff. That's the other thing. There's a joke, I think ProZD did it. He's a YouTuber, it's quite funny. Where it's a joke about watching like cooking shows, where it's somebody, who's microwaving like pizza pockets or something.
Okay,
they're microwaving little pizza bites, and they're like, that guy is totally messing up the reverse sear, and they're like spilling their like burning hot like microwavable pizza pops on themselves, and they're like, it's really easy for a lot of people who operate at a much sort of lower level in terms of the physical capability, certainly,
right,
but also who are much less involved and deeply immersed in sort of the stats and the numbers and all of the other dynamics, right? Where I think you don't always need to be an expert in order to comment, right? It's like if you watch somebody crash a helicopter into like the side of a mountain, you can point and go, I'm pretty sure that they weren't supposed to do that, right? Without being, an expert in it. But I think there's a lot of scenarios in which people feel like the world is a little simpler and the lines are a little cleaner than they think, and they're like, well, if I was doing it, I would have done it right, and they did it wrong. I would have done it different. Now that we have perfect information and it didn't go the way that I wanted it to go, I would have done it differently, because the worst thing that could have happened is that, we lost.
In adult conversations, that's called nuance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I do want to say that I am absolutely grateful. It's funny too. Like me, I was not one of the guys that was saying, "Oh yeah, the Jays are going to win." I thought this was going to be competitive. I think the Jays belong there. I am sad that they lost, but holy moly, did they give us a good playoff run and a good World Series.
I think at the end of the day, good sport, right? Winning and losing has some stakes, right? Certainly emotional stakes.
Right.
But the actual difference in outcomes, it's not like, the winning team gets like $1 billion for their roster.
They might get a couple hundred, or per player they might get $100,000 or $200,000 more per player,
like as a bonus for the players.
Yeah, because I think what happens is that when you play playoffs, the teams have extra gate. They sell more tickets, right? They just have more income from those extra games.
Yeah.
So that income, I think, because of the collective bargaining agreement that the players have with the owners, that there's a certain share, maybe like half of the gate goes to the players, and they divvy it up.
That's fun.
And each team that makes it further in the playoffs gets a bigger share. And I think it's across, it's instead of just being the regular gate stuff, it's like shared across the revenue streams from Major League Baseball, but I'm not 100% sure.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's one thing, real world. The other thing that I want to talk about, just ever so briefly, if you talk about cementing it in time, I think people know enough. It's the Tuesday after the World Series. But I also think the New York election is tonight. And it's something that I've been surprisingly engaged in, just sort of passively, because I think Zohran Mamdani has had an exceptional campaign. Mm-hmm. He seems like a really likable guy. Mm-hmm. Every time I see him in front of a camera, I think, wow, that guy, he's doing a good job staying on message. He is, speaking to real concerns. I think he's speaking in a really, straightforward, but sharp way that I have not seen much when I've seen other politicians speak.
Right.
Right. And a lot of just, I like him, right? I like him. I like his policy platform. He's really disciplined and really able to stay on message without being totally wishy-washy.
Right.
There's, he seems warm, likable. He's a democratic socialist. He's run just a really, as an outside observer, a really cool campaign. And I've really liked it. And
Don't you wish all politicians were like that?
I do.
Yeah.
And he clearly seems to be somebody who, just given his record, his history, when I'm seeing stuff from when he was not nearly as popular, that he's really in it, right?
Sure, that it's not for
That
show,
he
that there's
means
because there's consistency over time, that it's not just a facade that you put on for this.
Yeah. And if anything, I've seen him go from somebody who seems to be even more value aligned with kind of the stuff I believe into somebody who is maybe needing to couch or moderate some of his positions for the office that he's assuming. So, for example, he was talking about defunding the police, right? And now he's like, I'm looking forward to working with the New York police to continue to make the streets safer. And I am also looking forward to creating, crisis response teams that can respond to mental health crises and things like that so that police can do the work that they should be doing.
Sure,
right?
They are actually trained to do that they are going to be more effective at.
And so, I am more on the defund the police side of the aisle than what his current policy platform is, but I also understand that he can't run on a defund the police and platform. That can't be part of his campaign.
And I will say that part of it is really just how you word it, because when the budget has been increasing steadily, and instead of increasing it, you hold the line and you pay for these crisis response teams.
Yeah.
In a way, that's effectively the same thing.
To some extent, yeah.
Sure. And it's partly how you frame it.
Yeah.
And defunding police as a sort of slogan gets the attention, and the people who actually believe it, most of them are not saying abolish the police, which is something different.
Yeah.
They're saying, don't spend so much money on this one thing to do jobs that they're not actually good at.
And I also think that when I'm seeing him, make these mild changes, that him sort of slightly moderating how he speaks about issues now, is that he's moving in the direction of something that is meeting the world where it is currently at, whereas what he was doing before was more speaking to the world that he wanted to see, when it was less sort of immediately...
less within his reach.
Yeah. But also just less immediately relevant, because I think you can both talk about the world that you want to see in the long term, while acknowledging that you have to start from the world that you exist in today, right? And so what I've seen is, I haven't seen anything that feels like it's inconsistent with his viewpoints, right? I've seen him change what his specific policy recommendations are on the basis of just purely his words alone. And ultimately, for any person, it is action that is the thing that matters more if you're in political office, right? Words matter some. I won't say they don't. I'll say that especially like when you think about vulnerable communities and populations, right? I think that there's value to speaking to and, speaking for, not like for as in like over or on behalf of them, but like speaking like you care about their issues, right? And bringing attention to them. There's a value in visibility. That isn't nothing, but the majority of the value of especially like an elected official in government is ultimately like policy and platform, like what you do.
But being acknowledged, being seen, being heard matters so much more, I think, than some people realize.
Well, that's like the goal of the Green Party, right? Like in Canada and in a lot of places, the goal of the Green Party is not to be the majority government ever, right? It is not to get even like a ton of seats, right? Like I'm sure they would like it if they had a ton of seats.
And the Green Party right now has enough seats, I think. No, not Green. NDP does.
Yeah, NDP. Green Party has like 1 seat or like 2 seats or no seats or something.
But speaking of grounding things in the news today, one of the Conservative MPs flipped to the Liberals.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know if that changes the math. Maybe you need one more than that. But I'm just saying, like, that's kind of in flux right now. There's actually a new Liberal member of Parliament.
But the point being that like the Green Party has very, very limited like personal governing power. But the value is that they force their talking points. They force you, not their talking points, but they force you to talk about the issues that they are talking about, right? That you have an opportunity to capture votes from a Green Party by talking about climate. that if they're on a debate stage, that
Yeah.
there will be questions about climate, that climate will be part of the conversation and other people will have to incorporate it
Right.
somehow.
Right.
That they have to be responded to, right? That they're part of the discussion. And I think there is some amount of value in that, even if, you are not going to be the main person in power. And I mean, I think we've seen that in, like, Trump, for example, right? Him being around has sort of shifted the politics of the parties around him, right? A lot of stuff needs to be in response to him. The Republican Party
Sure.
is a different thing because Trump exists in it. Even the people who are, not directly, who don't directly need to be more like Trump, right? If you're just a Republican anywhere in the system, the existence of Trump has changed it. If
Sure.
you're a Democrat in the system,
You
the
can't ignore it,
existence of
right?
Trump
Like, yeah, right.
has changed the way that you're allowed to engage, the types of questions that are being asked, the playing field,
Sure.
right? We think about the way
Sure.
that Gavin Newsom is, running his social media and everything now, right?
Yeah.
That is a response to Trump,
Well,
inarguably.
sure. And in my mind, the way I see it is there's a certain amount of gravity. There's enough mass in what Trump represents that you just cannot avoid it.
Yeah.
It influences what's happening in the world, but it has to influence what you do. Otherwise, you're going to not be relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think there's a lot of that in politics. But so I'm really interested to see how this turns out.
Sure.
From the polling that I've seen, and I know I haven't looked too much into polling by myself, right? So I'm kind of like, I'm a blurry average of my own algorithmic feed, which is not a great indication of who's going to win, because my algorithmic feed is always going to value somebody like Mamdani and want him to win more than other people, right? So if there's a candidate doing even a little bit well, right, it'll always be, I'm really feeling it, right?
Yeah.
But from what I've seen from polling estimates, it seems like he's the guy. Like, it seems like he's gonna win this one. And I know, subject to change, but I will be excited to see that. It's definitely something I'll be checking out. I care a little bit more about that than the baseball.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good.
It's all interesting stuff. Do you want to do like one question?
Sure,
quick?
we'll do really cool.
Because we're already over and I got places to be.
Yeah.
So this one is oh wait, sorry, I scrolled down too far. This one comes from Maddox_edits, and they say, "Bro, you should play Injustice 2."
We did.
Yeah.
That's it. That was the answer.
We did.
We got videos. Go look them up. We got a bunch of them, actually.
We did. We don't anymore, and we won't.
We've talked a bunch about why we didn't, and it was around that time. So if you want to see, we've got. I might have even made a playlist out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be fun, I guess, looking at it as a historical kind of document,
Or it won't.
or not.
Yeah. To finish up, we would like to give a huge thank you to our wonderful patrons on Patreon. That is Michael Devries, Irvin, Ruiz, Hoshi 127, Nora Klimek, and Miguel, who are supporting us on the credited level. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Komoda.